My name is Alicia, and in this week's lesson we are going to practice using would in second conditional sentences. So this type of conditional is, for example, a sentence like, if I were you, I would do something. So in today's lesson we're going to practice making positive sentences, negative sentences, and we're going to practice making questions. All of these will feature would or wouldn't. So I hope that everyone can get some good practice, and of course feel free to send your example sentences in the chat today. I will try to check them live. All right, I see YouTube is ready to go. Thanks everybody for joining us on YouTube. Facebook, I think we're getting connected to you too. So while we wait for everybody, of course, a couple of very quick announcements. First of all, at the bottom of the screen, there is this guide to learn English at home. If you are interested in studying with us, you can find for free a link to our beginner level course. So you can find this from the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video if you are watching this on Facebook. So our team has made a beginner level course that you can access there for free and get some practice exercises as well. So check out that link for all of the details if you're interested in that. The other thing is, of course, if you have questions for me, if you have questions about something totally different from today's lesson topic, or if you think of something later, you can send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia for this series, for the Ask Alicia question and answer series. So I'll read your question and maybe I'll choose that one to answer for the series. But if you have questions, please send them to me for that series, and then we can all hopefully learn something new from that. Okay, so that's everything for announcements. I think everybody's ready. Okay, great. YouTube, hello YouTube. Welcome everybody watching on YouTube. New generation, hi. Bavna, hello. From Kyrgyzstan, sorry I can't read your name. Hi. Danny and Masadul Tiago, hi. From Brazil, welcome everybody. On Facebook, I'm looking for you, Facebook. If you're just joining maybe for the first time recently, I am broadcasting from my house still, but everything I think is okay. Facebook, hi Facebook, great. Everybody's on Facebook too. Mohammed Chaime, hello. Sakchai, hi. Antonio, hello. Raquel as well. Fantastic. Everyone's here. So I'll show you today's lesson boards. Oh, before I do, please make sure to hit the like button on this video and share the video too so other people can find today's lesson. That would be super, super cool. Okay, let's go to today's lesson boards. This is what we are going to practice today. First, I'm going to talk about using would in positive statements. Then I'm going to talk about using it in negative statements. And finally, we're going to practice making questions, yes or no questions, and information questions. So today's lesson is going to use a lot of sample sentences, and I think probably a lot of you will ask about the differences between different types of conditional. So I want to focus today on second conditional sentences. And the first thing I want to focus on is a very common question we'll talk about in part one. If I was or if I were? The short answer is if I were. So let's begin. First, would in second conditional positive statements. So we're going to see this pattern in each part of today's lesson. That is this if plus simple past tense part in one part of the sentence, and would plus the infinitive in the other part of the sentence. So simple past here means we use a simple past tense verb in the if part of the sentence. Then this infinitive means we use the basic infinitive, like the dictionary form of the verb, in the would part of the sentence. So if, simple past, would, and infinitive. Also, you can switch the order of these two. So I'll show you some examples of that. A reminder, this note here in blue is a reminder. Second conditional expresses situations or conditions that are very unlikely or are impossible. So we just want to imagine a situation. So this is one of the key differences with other types of conditionals. With second conditional, there's almost zero chance, no chance, it's impossible, or there's a very, very small chance of the condition or the situation. So we just want to imagine that. So we use would to express that. So let's look at some examples. And if you have an example, please feel free to send it in the chat. In part 1, we're going to focus on making positive statements. Okay, so let's get started. Let's look at some examples and see what's happening in these sentences. First example here is this one. If I lost my job, I would find a new one. If I lost my job, I would find a new one. That's at native speed. So what's happening in this sentence? Here we see exactly this pattern. If I lost my job, this is my if clause. It uses simple past tense, yeah? Lost. So lost is the past tense form of lose, yeah? So if I lost my job, again, very low chance of this happening, hopefully. A very low chance of this happening. Then we want to imagine our action in this situation. I would find a new one. I would find a new one. So quickly, just to show this matches, I would find. Infinitive find is right here. This is my verb, to find. I want to mention a very common mistake in these sentences. Sometimes learners use will here, and will is incorrect. If I lost my job, I will find a new one is incorrect. You cannot use will instead of would in this situation. We use would to express unreal, things that are not real. And this is an imagined situation. We're just imagining the possibility here. So we cannot use will in this sentence. Please use would here. Okay? That's one point. Also, another very common mistake I sometimes see is learners put would here. If I would lost my job or something like that. We cannot use would in the if clause. So please be careful. Make sure would goes in your main clause. Yeah? Okay. I'm looking for your example sentences. Wow, there are lots coming in. Fantastic. I'll start on YouTube. Bhavna says, if I fail... okay, so again, we're practicing positive statements with second conditional. First thing, if I failed, bingo. So make sure you have simple past in your if clause, yeah? Kanmalji says, I would travel all over the world if I had enough money. Great, great, great. So if I failed, past tense verb there, Bhavna. Okay. Some are coming in on Facebook now. Please don't flood the chat. Please don't send the same message over and over and over again. Make sure everyone can participate, please, Facebook. Shah says, if I didn't move to the USA, I would go to Turkey. Okay, okay. All right, interesting. If I were less shy, I would be with my crush, says Fatima. Ooh, good one. Good example sentence. Okay, so interesting ones. Fantastic. Let's continue to the next example sentence. This has one of today's key points. This example sentence begins with, if I were you. If I were you. So a lot of people have asked me over the years, and actually this is a question for native speakers too. Is it if I were you or if I was you? The correct answer is were. We should use were in this pattern. However, native speakers very, very often use was here. You'll hear it in music, like lots and lots of song lyrics use that. We use it in everyday conversation. So it's not going to be a problem if you use was here, but if you want to be 100% correct all the time, use if I were you. If I were you in this pattern. So yes, we use the simple past. So when we think of that, we say I was, right? But we use this were in this pattern. So please take a note of that for today's lesson. And then we follow this with the same would and infinitive pattern, yeah? I would eat less junk food. If I were you, I would eat less junk food. At native speed, this sounds like, if I were you, I would eat less junk food. That's what it sounds like. Okay, so this is giving some advice. If I were you advice. Now let's take a look at some positive example sentences that switch this order. So first we'll use would, and then we'll use the if clause. Let's take a look. First, he would be more successful if he spent more time working. He would be more successful if he spent more time working. So in this sentence, I swapped the order. So the would part comes first. He would be is my infinitive verb. He would be more successful. This is another pattern you see commonly in these types of sentences. This comparative, more successful. What does that mean? More successful than he is now. But we drop the full comparative. He would be more successful than he is now, is what it means. But we just say he would be more successful. Then we have this if clause. If he spent. So spent is the simple past form of spend time. Spend time. We're using the past form spent more time working. He would be more successful if he spent more time working. At native speed, this sentence sounds like he'd be more successful if he spent more time working. So we reduce this would to a d sound. He would. Okay, let's look at the last one then. We would cook more often if we had more time. We would cook more often if we had more time. Again, cook is my infinitive verb here. More often than we do now. If we had more time. So that means we don't have very much time or we don't have enough time. But if we did, we would do this. Another point I want to make, the last point here, is about punctuation. Yeah, this little mark right here, this is a comma. Yeah, if I lost my job, comma, or if I were you, comma. You'll notice in these two, there's no comma after he would be more successful. We do not use a comma in these cases. Use your comma after the if clause at the beginning of a sentence. If the if clause is not at the beginning of the sentence, like these two, no comma. Don't use a comma there. Okay? All right. Deborah says, isn't this similar to using dependent and independent clauses in terms of like comma use? Yeah. So the ways that we connect dependent and independent clauses. Yeah. Okay. Some examples. Some examples are coming in on YouTube. I would be richer if I worked more. Okay, so this is a common issue I'm seeing in the examples you're sending in the chat. Many people are sending examples, but they forget. Use simple past tense, not your ing form, not your present tense. Don't use infinitive here. Simple past tense. If I worked more. Simple past tense verb in the if clause there. Okay, Jantini says she would be more popular if she spent more time on live streams. Okay. Sarith says, if I lost my house key, I would have to break my window. Okay, good. All right, very nice example sentences. Okay, so that is part one. So let's finish part one and take a short break, then we'll go to part two for today. Okay, so if you missed it earlier, real quickly, this banner at the bottom of the screen, it says, get your guide to learn English at home. There is a free beginner level course available at EnglishClass101.com, our team's lovely website. So you can get a full course, a full beginner level course for free there right now. Our team has put that together. There's everything that you need is from the link below the video on YouTube or above the video if you're watching on Facebook. You need your name and an email address and you can get the beginner level course there. So click the link in the description. Check it out. I hope that it is helpful for everybody. Okay. Let's go to part 2 for today's lesson. If you're just joining, this week's live lesson is about using would in second conditional sentences. Second conditional. We're focusing on second conditional today. If you have not already, also, please make sure to like and share this video so that other people can find today's lesson. That would be super great. Let's go to, if you want to take a picture of today's lesson boards, here you go. Boom. We talked about positive statements just now. Next, we're going to practice negative statements. So we're going to practice would not. So let's go to part 2. Okay, negative statements, part 2 for today. Here we go. So you'll see for negative statements with would, we have this same pattern we practiced with positive statements. Yeah, if, simple past. So this part is the same, yeah? However, we use would not in the main clause, or wouldn't. So most naturally, wouldn't, the reduced form. Would and not together makes wouldn't. So if, simple past, would not, infinitive. Okay, so this is the only change. We have just this little baby change. So let's practice negative statements and let's look at what they mean, what they're saying here. Okay, so first one, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't spend all the money. If I won the lottery, I wouldn't spend all the money. So again, my if clause follows the same pattern we practiced in part 1, yeah? Won is the simple past verb of win. The simple past tense form of to win is won. I won. The lottery, maybe some of you don't know the lottery. The lottery is a contest. It's a chance game. So you buy a ticket with numbers. If your numbers on the ticket match the contest numbers, you win a lot of money. That's called a lottery. So it's a money game, a chance game to win money. So this sentence expresses if I won the lottery, so if I got a lot of prize money, I would not spend all the money. I wouldn't spend all the money. So maybe I would save it, I would invest it, and so on. So we use this negative would not to express that. Okay. Let's go to the next one. I don't see questions coming yet, so let's go to the next one. Oh, sorry, I erased part of my word. I'll fix it in blue really quickly. My thumb erased my H. Okay, so example sentence 2 here. If he bought a new camera, he wouldn't sell his old one. If he bought a new camera, he wouldn't sell his old one. So again, simple past tense verb here. If he bought, so buy, present tense or infinitive, bought, simple past tense. If he bought a new camera, he wouldn't sell his old one. So again, wouldn't is the reduced form of would not. At native speed, this sentence sounds like, if he bought a new camera, he wouldn't sell his old one. So we're again expressing something in this case that would not happen. So an unreal situation. Again, this is unlikely. If he bought a new camera or if I won the lottery, there's a low chance of these things, but we want to talk about our actions in those unreal situations. Okay? Okay, some examples are coming in. I'm looking for negative. Let's practice making negative statements now. Sari says, if I go shopping, okay, so again, if I, simple past tense, if I went shopping, I wouldn't spend all my money. So that's a key point. So many of you today need to work on this simple past point with this grammar here. Use simple past. What's the difference between should and would, says Shima. Well, there are many, but should we use in many cases for advice. We don't use should. We can't replace should and would in these sentences, though. Okay. If I felt sick, says Jesus. If I felt sick, I wouldn't go to work. Very nice example sentence. If I felt sick, I wouldn't go to work. Perfect example sentence. Very nice job. Okay, let's go to the next one. So again, just as the same way as positive statements, we can swap the order. So the would part comes first and the if part comes second in our sentence. So, for example, I wouldn't get a pet until I had extra time and money if I were you. If I were you. So, I included this example sentence with this in parentheses right here. If I were you. So this is my if clause. Yeah? If I were you, I wouldn't get a pet until I had extra time and money. So this is a common advice pattern. So in this case, a negative advice pattern. However, native speakers, oftentimes, we drop if I were you, because sometimes it's very clear. The advice is clearly for the other person. We're imagining if I were you. In cases where it's very clear, you're talking about the other person's experience, you can drop this part. Like, I wouldn't get a pet until I had extra time and money. In some situations, it's very clear if I were you is implied. So that's why I have this here, if I were you. Okay, let's look at one more example of this, another negative example. I wouldn't quit my current job until I found a new one. If I were you. Again, if I were you. I wouldn't quit. So this quit. Quit, the verb quit, is the same in the infinitive form and simple past tense. So quit, there's no change. I wouldn't quit my current job. My current job means the job I have now. The job I have now is my current job. I wouldn't quit my current job until I found a new one. Okay? All right. So I'm looking for your examples now. Let's see. Luis on YouTube says, is it okay to say this? If my team lost the game, I would never watch them again. Yes, that's correct. That's a very strong statement. If my team lost the game, I would never watch them again. So like, I would never watch them play again. That is correct. Yes, yes. Diego says, I wouldn't spend cash on a new iPhone if I were you. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Very nice examples. September says, if I spoke new information to her, she would not know all about it. Let's see. Maybe if let's see. I'm not sure what that one is trying to say. Can you think of a different way to say it? And I'll try to check it again. I'm not quite sure what that one's saying. Okay. Time's going quickly, so let's stop there for part 2, negative statements, and then we'll go to questions to finish today's lesson. A few more examples. So really quickly, I won't take an official break, just if you missed it before, there's a free beginner level course for everybody from the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video if you're watching on Facebook. Check it out. There's a free, as I said, beginner level course that you can get and study with us there. Okay, let's go to the last part for today's lesson. So quickly, because I'm running out of time, as always, let's go to making questions. So I want to finish today by helping you practice a couple different patterns for questions, second conditional questions. So in this last part, we're going to practice yes or no questions and information questions. So let's take a look. First, our yes or no pattern to make a simple yes or no question. Again, we have this same pattern we practiced in today's lesson, in all the parts of today's lesson. If, simple past, okay? So this is the same. Then would or wouldn't, and the infinitive to make a question. So that means we can make this with our voice. We can make these kinds of questions just with our voice using upward intonation. For example, if you got a new job in a different city, would you move? So, if you got a new job in a different city, so here's my simple past tense verb. Get becomes got in simple past tense. If you got a new job in a different city, would you move? So different from the positive and negative sentences we practiced in part 1 and part 2. When we make our question, we have this subject right here. Would you move? And of course, these don't have to match. In this case, it's you and you. But we have this before our verb. Would you move? Would you move? So again, we cannot use will here. Will is incorrect to use because this is an unreal situation. If you got a new job in a different city, would you move? Okay. Let's go to the next example with yes or no. This one uses a negative. I'll explain why in just a moment. If your friend forgot their wallet, wouldn't you lend them money? This is lend, so to give someone something for a short time. If your friend forgot their wallet, wouldn't you lend them money? So why is this negative? Why didn't I say would here? Actually, would is correct. Would is correct. Would you lend them money? That's also totally correct. So why did I use a negative here? Negatives. We use a negative in a pattern like this, especially in these unreal situations, these imagined situations, when we expect a positive answer. So we expect the other person is going to agree with us. So in this case, it's like if your friend forgot their wallet, of course you would lend them money, right? That's what this is expressing, but we use wouldn't to do that very quickly and efficiently. Wouldn't you lend them money? So it's like saying you would do this, wouldn't you? Right? Isn't that so? So we use this negative to do that. Okay. All right. I see a couple of examples. Salma on YouTube says, if you had time, would you come with me? Good, 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 good. So like that's for like a party invitation. You could use that. If you had time, would you come with me? Seema on Facebook says, if I need, so again, simple past tense. Everybody, a point for everybody today. Simple past tense verb. If I needed your help, could you help me or would you help me? Actually, good point. Seema's comment, Seema's expression says, would you like to help me? Remember, would you like to is a different pattern. Would you like to is like an offer, right? You're making an invitation. So that sounds weird in that sentence because it's a request. Like if you had time, would you help me? You're actually asking for someone's like help. You're not offering them something. So think about the difference of would. We don't really use would. From time to time we use would you like to sort of patterns with this, but not so common. Let's see. Aditi says, if you were offered a position as president, would you accept? Would you accept? No. Okay. All right. Okay, time's going quick, so let's continue. Let's continue to the other type of question, information questions. So this is when we need like who or what or where or when information from the other person. How do we make that kind of question with second conditional? Again, same pattern. If simple past. Again, simple past for everybody. This is our focus point for today. Then, before we use would or wouldn't, we use our WH question. So who, what, where, when, and so on. So this is the change from this question pattern here. So let's look at some examples. If you had $1 million, What would you buy? So what? This is the information I want to get. I want to know the objects. So what would you buy? Again, we cannot use will here. This as well, simple past tense. Not if you have. Not if you have. If you have is incorrect. If you had $1 million, what would you buy? Okay? And final example, if you had to move to another country, where would you go? If you had to move to another country, where would you go? Okay, so here is my WH question before would, and my simple past tense in my if clause. If you had to move to another country, where would you go? Okay. All right, I'm looking for your example sentences. Xiang on Facebook, Xiang says, if you had lots of money, where would you go? Perfect, nice question, very nice question. Okay, someone says, look at my answer. I don't know, I can't see your answer. There are many questions, many sentences coming in. Bhavna says, if you had, so Bhavna, especially for you, this is your key point to practice this week. Your example sentences need to use simple past tense on YouTube. So I've seen many of your sentences come in. Change your verb. So if you had 10 boyfriends, what would you do? Oh my gosh, that sounds awful. Okay. If you could go anywhere, where would you choose? Nice. Yeah, so you can upgrade. If you could go anywhere, where would you choose? Very nice example sentence on YouTube. Okay. Bruno said a point about the video. Know your verbs. Oh, we've already made all of those. So, if you had more time, what would you do? Galila on YouTube. If you had more time, or if you had enough time, what would you do? So very close. What is your WH question? What would you do? Don't forget your would in that pattern. Okay, that sounds great. Nito says, if you worked right now, what would you work on? Maybe if you had a job now, what would you do? Maybe that's a more natural question. Okay. Shima, if you were invisible, what would you do? If you were invisible. Invisible is an adjective. Very creative example sentences, everybody. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. I have to finish up there for today. I am late as always. Oh my gosh. So we'll finish there. Fantastic example sentences, everybody. So that's today's key point for everyone. Please remember to use simple past tense in your if clauses. Here are today's lesson boards. So in red, the red color at the top of each board is the pattern to practice. So please, please, please use simple past tense, everybody. Simple past tense there. You can take a picture of this so that you can study this later and practice your awesome example sentences. Okay. So I'll finish there for today. I'll be back next week, of course, so please join me again next week. Next week's topic is here. Next week, the date will be October 14th, Wednesday, October 14th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is New York City time. Please Google to find your local time. Use your Google skills. Next week, I'm going to talk about how to make future tense questions. So I know many learners are used to like answering questions. We answer questions. I'm going to, or I will, and so on. But I know many learners forget to practice making their own questions. So next week we're going to practice making questions in the future tense. So I hope that you join me again next week to do that. So I'll finish there for today. Thank you as always for joining me live. That was super fun. Don't forget to check the link below the video on YouTube, the description, or above the video if you're watching on Facebook to get this free beginner level course that you can use to study English with our team. Thanks for liking the video too. Thanks for liking and sharing the video, and for all of your great questions and example sentences. I hope that you found something new to practice this week. I'll say goodbye there, so enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week, and have a nice weekend. I will see you again soon. Bye!